It was a Friday evening, and the elegant restaurant La Vérité buzzed with the hum of luxury. Chandeliers gleamed overhead, and the soft clink of silverware echoed in the air. Waiters weaved gracefully between tables, their steps precise, each gesture rehearsed in this world of polished refinement. At the center of it all was Isabella, 25 years old, a waitress who had spent the last 2 years navigating the high-end service industry with grace and quiet resolve. She had never dreamed of a life like this. Growing up in a small town, Isabella had always believed she was meant for something more than the mundane. But dreams, as she had learned, didn't pay the bills. After all, it wasn't the piano she loved to play that paid her rent. It was the trays of appetizers she carried through these very tables. She had been a pianist once, a long time ago. Music had been her first love, the one thing that could calm her anxious heart and help her escape her small world. But after a lack of scholarships and the crushing weight of responsibility, her musical dreams were placed on an indefinite hiatus. She had come to La Vérité not just to earn a living, but because it had something she couldn't resist: a grand piano in the corner. She never played, of course, but the mere sight of it gave her some comfort, like a silent promise of something that might one day come to pass. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky outside darkened, Isabella continued her routine. She refilled glasses, cleared empty plates, and kept her head down. But tonight was different. Tonight, someone would walk into her life who would change everything. The door swung open, and in walked Garrett Morgan, CEO of Morgan Enterprises, a self-made billionaire who had earned his fortune in tech startups. Dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, his sharp jawline set with arrogance, he exuded an air of superiority. He didn't just own the room. He owned the world, or so he thought. Garrett was used to getting what he wanted. He had built his empire on sharp business moves and ruthless negotiations. But what he didn't know was that tonight he would meet someone who would show him just how small his wealth really was in comparison to true talent. The moment his eyes landed on Isabella, a smirk crossed his face. Something about her caught his attention, a quiet beauty, a restrained elegance that seemed to speak of hidden depths. Isabella wasn't the first waitress to serve him, but she was different. He decided, as he often did, to make her the target of his amusement for the evening. As she approached his table with a bottle of wine, he made a pointed remark. "Tell me, Isabella," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "What do you do when you're not serving drinks and refilling glasses? Surely someone with your charm has dreams beyond waiting tables." Isabella paused, caught off guard. She forced a polite smile and replied, I used to play piano. I still play sometimes when I can." Garrett raised an eyebrow, an amused grin spreading across his face. "Piano, huh? Interesting. Maybe you can give us a little performance. There's a grand piano right there in the corner. Why not play something for us? Or is that beyond your talents?" The other guests at the table chuckled, and a ripple of laughter spread through the nearby diners. Isabella's stomach tightened, but she refused to be intimidated. She had dealt with arrogant customers before. This was no different, or so she told herself. "I'm just here to work," she replied quietly. "I'm not here for performances." Garrett wasn't letting her off the hook that easily. His smirk widened, and he raised his voice for the whole room to hear. "Ah, so it's true. All talk, no talent. What a shame. I thought someone like you might have more to offer." His words stung, sharper than she expected. But something inside her stirred. something that refused to let him or anyone else define her. With a deep breath, Isabella made a choice. This wasn't about him. This was about her. The room fell silent as she stood, turning to face the piano. Every step felt heavy, like a challenge she wasn't sure she could win. Her fingers trembled as she approached the instrument, the grand piano gleaming under the soft glow of the restaurant's chandeliers. She could feel the weight of every eye in the room on her. Her gaze briefly flickered back to Garrett, who was leaning back in his chair, his arms crossed, awaiting her failure. His expression was one of smug satisfaction, as though he knew exactly what she would do next. But Isabella was no longer concerned with his expectations. The piano keys were cool beneath her fingers as she settled onto the bench. The room's energy was tense, filled with curiosity, anticipation, and judgment. She closed her eyes for a moment, drawing in a breath. When her fingers touched the keys, the first notes were soft, almost tentative. But then something shifted. She let go. Isabella played a soulful rendition of Clair de Lune by Claude Debussy, a piece she had once played for her mother when she was a little girl. The music poured from her fingertips, each note flowing like a story, of dreams deferred, of moments lost, of resilience built over years of hard work. As the room listened, something remarkable happened. The laughter died down, the chatter faded away. Even Garrett, who had been so eager to mock her moments ago, was now completely silent, his expression unreadable. Isabella's music had woven a spell over them all, drawing them into a world where beauty and grace were the only things that mattered. The final note rang out, reverberating through the air like a heartbeat. For a long, breathless moment, no one moved. Then the room erupted into applause. It was not the polite clapping of a few people, but a wave of recognition. The diners, her co-workers, even the quiet maitre d'. They all stood in awe of the young waitress who had dared to play. Garrett remained seated, clapping slowly, a hollow sound that barely echoed over the thunderous applause. He didn't understand what had just happened. His usual confidence had been replaced by a flicker of discomfort. He hadn't just been proven wrong, he had been exposed for what he truly was. "Well, Isabella," he said, his voice a little shakier than before. "I didn't expect that." "I didn't do it for you," she replied, her tone calm but firm. "I did it for me." With that, she walked back to her station, her head held high. The energy in the restaurant had shifted completely. The room, once filled with the hum of privilege and arrogance, now carried a quieter, more respectful air. The night ended quietly. Garrett and his entourage left without their usual flair, their exit now almost anticlimactic. Isabella didn't care. As she cleared plates and refilled glasses, her heart was lighter than it had been in years. That performance had been more than just a moment of triumph. It was the beginning of her reclaiming her identity. A few days later, she received a call from a music producer who had been dining that evening. He wasn't offering her fame or fortune, but he wanted to record a demo, a step toward something she had only dared to dream of. The story of her performance at La Vérité spread quickly, becoming a local legend. The lesson, however, was universal. True talent couldn't be measured by wealth or arrogance. It came from within. And Isabella? She wasn't just a waitress anymore. She was an artist, and that no amount of mockery or judgment could ever take away from her.